sacrifices to fix it. She also announces to the students that their bodies now belong to the state, and they are obligated to perform any task assigned to them. In the next scene, Nate meets with a CIA panel, who decides to suspend him for his blunder in Russia. However, Nate argues that he has worked with Marble for years, and that nobody else can be trusted. His plea is eventually taken into consideration, and he is given a second chance. More time, she makes up a lie and tells him that she's also working on Stephanie's case with Marta, but will require additional funding. Ivan gives it a thought and decides to leave for now. While getting his coat, Dominica manages to sneak a look at his passport to gather it well on him. Later that evening, Dominica returns home to shockingly find Marta's lifeless body in the bathtub. Before she can even comprehend what happened, Constantine, the same SVR agent from earlier, appears from behind and grabs her by the neck. He then explains that this is what happens to those who share secrets. Meanwhile, Nate informs his superiors about Marble's new message, which confirms that Dominica is a sparrow. Although his superiors view her as a threat, Nate believes that she's still recruitable. The next evening, he brings Dominica to her apartment and admits that he knows her real identity. Dominica, in turn, reveals her story, emphasizing that her only concern is her mother's safety. Nate then offers her a deal to become a double agent for him, promising her protection in return. After thinking it over, Dominica asks if she can trust him. He assures her that she can, and the two end up becoming intimate. In the morning, Dominica meets with Nate's superiors, who subject her to a lie detector test to assess her reliability. When she passes the test, she asks for money, claiming that she can buy them information from Stephanie Boucher. On Friday, Dominica travels to London with Maxim to meet Stephanie and execute the transaction. She stays in a hotel room that the CIA has specially prepared for her with security cameras and a set of discs hidden under a desk, which she can swap for the real ones later. Shortly after, Stephanie arrives at the hotel, and Dominica approaches her, claiming that she is sent by Marta. Once Stephanie is convinced, she hands over the discs in exchange for the money. Dominica pretends to authenticate the discs, but in reality, she switches them with the fake ones. After the deal, Stephanie realizes that she's being monitored by American intelligence agents. In a state of panic, she throws the money in the trash and tries to cross the street. But unfortunately, she only ends up getting hit by a truck and dying on the spot. Russian agents watching the whole incident assume that their mission has been compromised. They also suspect that Dominica and Maxim were the ones who tipped off the Americans, so the two are ordered to return to Moscow. Upon their arrival, Ivan seizes the discs and apprehends both Dominica and Nate. Despite their protests of innocence, they endure excruciating torture for days, and Maxim is even executed. However, Dominica remains adamant in her denial of involvement with the Americans. Eventually, Ivan begins to believe her and allows her to go back to Budapest to carry out her original mission of extracting Marble's identity. Upon reuniting with Nate, Dominica enjoys a romantic evening with him at his residence. However, in the middle of the night, she wakes up to discover Constantine subjecting Nate to torture in order to obtain Marble's identity. At first, Dominica feigns complicity with Constantine and even assists in inflicting harm on Nate. But when he is distracted, she assaults him, enabling Nate to break free from his restraints. The two then team up against Constantine and manage to take him down, but they endure serious injuries during this process. In the next scene, Dominica wakes up at the hospital where she receives a surprise visit from General Vladimir. Shockingly, he reveals himself as the mole, Marble. Vladimir, who is a former patriotic official, confesses that he became disillusioned with Russia's rampant corruption when his sick wife was denied treatment from an American doctor. Fearing that he will soon be caught and his sacrifice will be in vain, Vladimir instructs Dominica to expose him to Ivan. Doing so would make her a national hero and allow her to replace him as a mole. Dominica thinks the idea is absurd, but after a lot of convincing, she decides to turn herself into the authorities. She asks to speak to the Russian ambassador, and when her wish is granted, she explains that she has the name of the mole. However, she will only reveal his name in exchange for her freedom. In the aftermath of the conversation, an exchange meeting is scheduled at an airport. Nate is assigned to accompany Dominica in order to confirm the mole's identity. He is deeply upset as he feels used and betrayed by Dominica's actions. However, She has a surprise for him. Shortly after, the Russians approach them with a mole, whose face, when uncovered, turns out to be Ivan. It is revealed that Dominika had been fabricating evidence to frame her uncle ever since she arrived in Budapest, and even blamed him for the botched text change in London. Shocked, Nate quickly confirms Ivan as the mole. And just after the exchange, Ivan is shot by a Russian sniper. After the exchange ends, Dominika is taken away on a helicopter. In the final scene, we see her being honored in a Russian military ceremony attended by General Vladimir. Dominika is now living a good and free life with her mother, something which she had always dreamt of.